I'm Shay Connolly for GovExec, and I'm happy to welcome you to Decoding Agentic AI, Essential Insights for the Public Sector's Future, in partnership with Human Security. The emergence of agentic AI, systems capable of making autonomous decisions, executing complex tasks, and interacting across platforms without human oversight, is not just a technological leap forward. It's a shift that could redefine how government agencies harness AI. But agentic AI introduces new risks, compliance challenges, potential AI-driven cyber threats, and the ever-present concern about maintaining control over critical systems. Joining me to discuss this topic further, I'd like to welcome Captain Christopher Clark, Artificial Intelligence Lead and Deputy Commandant for Information in the Service Data Office of the U.S. Marine Corps, and Frank Walsh, Field Chief Technology Officer at Human Security. Captain Clark, Frank, thank you both for joining me today. And to start, can you each tell us a little bit about your role and how it intersects with AI? Captain Clark, let's start with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate the opportunity. So I am the AI lead in the Department of Deputy Commandant for Information, as you said. So my role is strategy, policy, and governance, essentially, for AI in the Marine Corps. So over the last year, last July, we published our AI strategy, and we've been working on the AI implementation plan since. We've also put out some guidance. We're developing policy. And then following the publication of our implementation plan, we will focus on those implementation actions, which is very broad. So looking at things like the workforce training and education requirements, governance, establishing and improving our AI governance, how we govern AI, how we handle resourcing decisions, and how we deal with potential risks that AI can pose. And then also looking at some of the most important components, which is dealing with our data and our data strategies and how we can improve our data landscape to have large amounts of high quality data when we need it, where we need it, to be able to train models and to continuously train them as we deploy them. And looking at things, in the infrastructure landscape as well, with the kind of compute we need, whether it's cloud or on-premises type data centers, because we deploy Marines forward and they may not have access to cloud resources, so they need to have if we're going to deploy machine learning models, we need to have the infrastructure there that can support it locally, as well as when they're connected to the cloud, and then improving our relationships with industry, academia, and others, and across the DoD, so that we aren't doing this alone, but we're doing it in partnerships. So that's kind of what I do. That's my role. Kind of, big picture, but looking at supporting those that are actually using these systems so they can use them effectively.
Thank you. And Frank, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Hi, everyone. My name is Frank Walsh. I serve as Field CTO at Human Security. So AI plays a role in both defense and also as we think about how attackers are evolving, and automation is turning to fully autonomous attacks. So, on the defense side, we're looking at how AI can help differentiate between a real or right human or wrong device that's being used, abusing a system. And also looking at how we can actually build more powerful capabilities, expedited by the use of artificial intelligence in the development process and release process. And then, as we kind of anticipate the attack techniques and evolution, we're looking at how artificial intelligence is playing a role in threat actors, evolution and development.
Agentic AI goes beyond automation. How do you define it, and what sets it apart from current AI systems in government? Frank, would you like to kick us off here?
Yeah, I think when I look at agentic AI and look at how it's put to use, whether it be in defense or on the attacker side, we see a variety of ways in which AI offers advantages, right? And so I'll just start with the attacker side of things. I like to use the alliteration speed, scale, stealth, and script. And in all four of those capacities, we're seeing artificial intelligence, or more broadly, agentic artificial intelligence, offering attackers, significant improvements in their capabilities. Like, as we think through that speed, attackers are able to construct attack payloads, iterate on attack payloads, automatically interpret and react to feedback that applications offer them as they kind of probe or fuzz application interfaces. They're able to scale these attacks across every input on every interface continuously, using agentic AI to essentially do their bidding. They're able to achieve stealth through these technologies, basically mimicking the devices and the behavioral actions taken by real humans, with a tremendous fidelity. And then finally, one of the craziest and most dangerous things that we are seeing is attackers actually ask AI to craft attack payloads or attack tooling, right, that will deliver payloads. And so this is really scary, because they can basically, even if it's not self-hosted models, they're actually able to trick open models that are offered on sites like ChatGPT or Claude to build them tooling under the ruse that they're penetration testing, right? So these four advantages are tremendous. I even think the more present risk is that these technologies serve as like in-home, or professors, constantly available and offering instant feedback and never really getting frustrated, right? So the barrier to entry as a threat actor has been diminished. And if something personally doesn't make sense to you, 24/7, 365, you have an in-home professor to help you figure out your personalized learning gaps. Now, on the defender side, we're seeing ways in which we can triage and prioritize the more important attacks. We're seeing ways in which we can penetration test our own software and find gaps, or basically perform static and dynamic code analysis with something far more intelligent. We're also even seeing ways we can build out defensive capabilities expedited by agentic solutions that work on our behalf. So there's a lot of value on both sides of the coin. I think what I would say is everything just got a lot faster, a lot faster, right? So we're seeing everything get really fast, and we're seeing it get really fast, really fast. So we're just trying to keep up really with this kind of exponential evolution happening on both sides of the coin.
Definitely a lot of opportunities and a lot of new challenges to deal with. And then from within the government, Captain Clark, how do you see agentic AI sort of differentiated from AI systems that you and your team may be using now?
Yeah, so if I can just build off of what Frank said, things are getting faster. I think that's key, and I think that's kind of a key to what is different about agentic AI versus the AI that we are commonly using now, which is that AI machine learning models that are deployed are, for the most part, providing some type of information that a human then acts on. Agentic AI takes it to the next level. It no longer is just providing information that you can respond to or react to. It is taking that action and doing something on behalf of a person. So when things are moving fast, people will struggle to keep up with the machine at every step. But through implementing agentic AI solutions, that's where we can start to keep pace potentially with those the outcomes, vice just providing indicators or other information that a human has to act on. And I would say the way that I like to think about it is there are a few things that I think agentic AI needs to be considered agentic. And this is an evolving field. I think we would struggle to agree on a definition. But most likely, large language models is a key component of it. I think we could say there are some agentic AI solutions that don't depend on large language models, but that is likely, that's what I think, we're looking at right now is the impact that large language models are having and their ability to behave in a manner similar to humans and provide human text and understand human language. Also having short and long-term memory, being able to remember what what happened earlier today as well as last week and maybe last year. And then really what I think is the key thing is having access to tools. Large language models themselves are not good at a lot of things. They do some things extremely well and other things they cannot do at all. And that's what, most of the AI systems that we have are very narrowly focused. They do a couple things extremely well. But building out a tool set and giving it access to an agent is kind of what what I think makes it agentic. That could be like a large language model is not good at math, for example. You need a tool that can do math. Giving it access to systems and having the appropriate access to take an action is also going to be an important part of it. Once it arrives at the action that needs to be taken, it needs to have access to actually do that. And so that's kind of what I think. When we think of agentic AI, that's what I kind of boil it down to. And I think it will be extremely impactful across likely every domain. I don't know that any domain will necessarily be spared in a good way. Ideally in a good way. There are certainly risks and other considerations as well. But I don't think there will be any domain spared as we move from where we are right now into agentic AI. I think there are a number of complications that we need to, talk about and work through to get there. But everything from cybersecurity, these types of attacks, as well as just standard business operations, audits, decision advantage. So in the Marine Corps, we're very much interested in how we can inject AI systems into the decision-making process to provide our commanders and our Marines with tools to speed up their decision-making cycles so they can act faster than the enemy. And those are all, those are all areas where agentic AI is likely to have a big impact.
Frank, where do you see the impact? Do you also see this sort of expansive, wide-ranging impact just kind of touching everything across this landscape, or what are some of the biggest areas of impact that you see?
I totally, as Christopher was talking about, like the definition of agentic AI, I think, yeah, absolutely. I think we're headed towards a world where AI models operate as agents on our behalf and complete actions through deep kind of ties to systems that we use to defend, or on the attacker side, deep ties to systems that they're using to perform an attack or distribute an attack. I think where we're at in the evolution is I haven't seen I haven't seen an effectiveness level that reaches the conclusion that we're able to operate in what I envision will be full agentic function, where we fully trust. I still think a human, to some degree, plays a role in reviewing and finding ways to interpret the quality of what a AI system does on its behalf. I'll give you examples, like, for example, when using a AI system to expedite code development and adding additional features. I tend to personally compare the last version to the new version in like a split screen. What I've often noted right now is that these systems will remove things that you didn't ask them to remove, or in many cases they don't infer non-functional requirements that someone with 20 years experience might. Like, you ask it to build a login screen, and you didn't directly state that you want it to be safe from SQL injection or cross-site scripting, and because you didn't specifically state it, the decision making lacks that experience, or it doesn't expand to infer the non-functional characteristics that you might have expected it to infer if you hired someone that had done it for 20 years. So like I see tremendous advantage across the board, whether it be characterizing, classifying, ranking the risk of specific threats, offering 24/7, 365 a way to take action on threats. But generally speaking, I think we're at a state where it still requires some level of human oversight or human involvement to kind of weigh the quality and the kind of expansiveness of the delivered outcome. So I'm seeing that, and so I think the advantage that a attacker has as they use AI is, they don't necessarily have to worry as much about the inferred requirements, as a defender does, right? Like taking action on a threat or a perceived threat that you find out was not a threat, can impact the availability, scalability, reliability of a system that plays a critical role in business or in the government sector in defense, right? Whereas an attacker really is kind of playing like a game of Nintendo where they can reset and try again, right? When something doesn't work. So I think there's some tremendous advantages. I think from a maturity standpoint, there's a ways to go to where we can fully trust these autonomous systems to make decisions. I think I perceive more risk right now because the threat actors aren't, like they aren't challenged by the same commitments that a defender is making as they employ one of these solutions.
And Frank, as we sort of move down the road towards maybe increasingly more autonomy, what are some of the pressing risks that agencies need to prepare for? Or how should they be preparing to, be able to grant more autonomy in the future?
Yeah, I think certainly, like finding ways to kind of vet the quality of contribution, and also Captain Clark referenced the idea that these systems persist awareness and memory of past decisions that they made, right? And so really what we want to do is, as we adopt these solutions, we want to understand how our oversight and contribution or our training to refine these systems will lead to a more experience, a system that persists the lessons we teach it, right? And so I think that right now the phase of training where these lessons that we teach it are persisted is in the hands of the few. It's not necessarily as embedded within the day-to-day use of these models. And I think that, while that might be challenging to achieve tomorrow, it should be the long-term vision for anyone adopting these agentic solutions, that the way they learn will directly contribute to refining the persistence and kind of awareness or experience that these models have that are unique to specific entity using them. Does that resonate?
Yeah, absolutely. And Captain Clark, I guess going off of this, you are obviously responsible for a lot of very high stakes decisions, a lot of very very serious consequences if things don't go quite right. What sort of risks is your team preparing for, and how are you preparing for them?
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, I think that I think where we are right now is there are a lot of low risk things that we can look at or experiment with, even just generative AI, and low risk business related stuff, right? Like we have a lot of administrative things, a lot of other things that are not necessarily high risk that we can start implementing generative AI and start experimenting with agentic AI. And I think 100% agree with Frank that we are a ways from the vision of agentic AI. But things are moving rapidly, and some of these barriers could come down pretty quickly. And we do see benefits in experimenting with employing and adopting AI systems into higher risk situations. And in that case, we do need a strong governance process in place. We do need human oversight. We need explainability, understandability. We need to understand, why a decision was made or why a recommendation was made. And we need a human in the loop or on the loop. These systems, they we cannot hold them responsible if they make a decision where we can hold a human responsible. And we need to have that ability and accountability of those actions and those decisions. So it is critical. And so that is part of what we are developing right now is the governance construct for AI in the Marine Corps. And it is, it's challenging. There are a lot of challenges in doing that. Part of it is a lot of this is very new. There's no roadmap for some of this stuff, and so we are building that as we go, experimenting. And then I think really, another key part is that these systems need to be continuously monitored and continuously have visibility over the system so that it is not acting without human oversight, I guess is the key. We do not see that happening in the Marine Corps. And that human oversight is critical in order to ensure that where they are able to act and influence decisions, that we have the ability to understand the impact of that and be able to, shut it off or stop using that system if needed.
Yeah, I think that accountability piece is really a critical part of this, of making sure everything is working how it should be. And so, Captain Clark, for your organization, how do you make sure you keep that accountability there when it comes to any sort of legal, ethical, policy boundaries that you need to be operating within? I mean, I know compliance is a complex topic and the best of times, and now we're introducing all sorts of new elements. How do you kind of set up those guardrails?
Yeah, so that's what we're actively exploring. I don't know that I have a great answer for that right now. I mean, I think, I think having a governance body is the first part of it to be able to review use cases and be able to audit systems and have, a body that has a deep understanding of how these systems work fundamentally, and be able to review the proposed uses, ensure that they do meet the policy compliance requirements, that they, we're also, we're looking at a lot of optimization across the country, including the DoD, and making sure that we're appropriately aligning our resources so that we, are not duplicating capabilities across the service. That's another huge piece of it. But I think that's the first step. We certainly are not looking to slow things down, but we are looking to be able to shut them off if they pose unnecessary risk, so that we have that oversight and we have individuals who can, review the system, ensure that it complies, and that whomever is employing that system has the right guardrails in place to be able to do that.
And Frank, what are some strategies or some thoughts here that you can share about making sure that you're operating within the proper boundaries or guardrails, as we've been discussing?
Certainly as you ask an AI system to take action or reach conclusions on your behalf, I find that it's critical to confirm an awareness and understanding of those rules, and then finally, those kind of guidelines or boundaries. And then, as I shared, even when writing code, it's critical to consistently review the outcomes reached, whether it be authoring code or a document, and line by line identify what changes occur, what decisions were reached by one of these systems. I think something that really excites me and interests me, there's some work being done at Carnegie Mellon, a solution called Actor, but drop the O. It's a cognitive architecture that focuses on establishing a few different types of memory: declarative memory, facts, experiences; procedural memory tied to like how to do something; goals, and perception of different senses like vision and hearing; and then finally, eventually, I think when we actually have robots, walking around, we'll have motor modules, capabilities that allow these robots to assist us in physical tasks. But I think like what is most exciting to me is we're working toward a world where we're able to simulate like the cognitive capabilities of a human being. We're able to like teach a computer or a system like this to basically operate in with the same kind of cognitive capabilities that a human does. And I think what's super exciting about this to me is that these systems don't need to eat, sleep. They don't have personal proclivities or kind of just a bad day, so to speak. So this means we're going to have systems that potentially are not impacted by what it is to be a human being, but be able to think like like Einstein's walking around on our behalf, working on our behalf. So that's really interesting to me. I think that is where these models will go, and what they will become over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think at that point we may start to be able to trust them. Well, to Captain Clark's point, we won't be able to maybe hold them accountable in the same way. We'll be able to evolve those entities to actually be more efficient and more effective, in the subsequent versions, which is an advantage I don't always get when we're working with humans, right? We can't replace them with a better version of ourselves, without a lot of work and time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Captain Clark, I think it was Frank who said earlier, sort of two sides of the coin here. So you, on one hand, with agentic AI or AI overall, can help bolster security measures. On the other, you create new vulnerabilities. How do you sort of navigate this kind of balancing act?
Yeah, no, I was going to say something from what Frank said. When we talk about our trust in AI, agentic AI, I think it's worth remembering too that humans are not perfect, and we make a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of risk in not doing some of these things, in not automating tasks where people get tired, bored, whatever. And so we got to figure that out. I think there's still a lot of work to be done there. But certainly we know that not automating things right now is a risk. And I think that's going to persist, and it's likely going to accelerate as we do develop these systems that can do things pretty good, at least as good as a human, possibly better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's I think important, and it might be 5 or 10 years before these systems start to show that that we can actually adopt them. We have a lot of challenges with data and other things that we need to fix, data silos, and then being able to continuously train those agentic systems because they are time bound. So after the training stops, the information stops. We have some techniques like RAG, retrieval augmented generation, to inject new data, but there's certainly going to need to be a continuous learning so these models, maintain current information based on the domain of what they're doing. But yeah, but to balance those things, I think that's a challenge. I think that's a challenge that is going to be difficult right now. A lot of it just it's going to be experimentation, understanding what the limitations are. I mean, we see a lot of those, just like Frank said with coding. I've used generative AI a lot for coding myself, and you really cannot just trust it to rewrite your code. It's going to make a lot of mistakes, even though it may improve other things. And that's kind of the just one area where we see challenges. But there are more. There's lots of edge cases, and so understanding what those limitations are, and I think really the key is not to put too much weight on the large language model. but to build an ecosystem of tools that work together to be able to effectively solve problems and then be able to put guardrails in place so they fail gracefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, there are definite risks to not innovating, to not experimenting. Of course, you have to be able to get leadership on board with innovating and experimenting. So, as government leaders look towards this time of maybe less human oversight, increasing autonomy, how can they be reassured that they can still maintain control? You want to prevent unintended consequences. Frank, how can agencies kind of maintain control of this environment?
Yeah, so it's going to be hard. I think especially as we look at the uses that threat actors will put agentic solutions to use to try and achieve. I think like it's hard to say that there'll be a human that can be used to maintain that control. I think we're going to end up relying on kind of separation of responsibility where one agentic solution is tasked to ensure the other agentic solution operates within boundaries of that are set before it. The same way we kind of use air-gapped networks to kind of manage and control what has the capacity to touch our network hardware, right? We'll probably end up in a world where we segment responsibility and control and use one agentic system with one level of access to safeguard us from something that is unintended occurring in another agentic system. I think that is absolutely the future, because I don't know any human being that will be able to keep up with the comprehensional or kind of speed at which these solutions are able to take action. I think in the short term, I think there's enough value, and I think this is kind of to one of the points I heard Captain Clark pointing out. It's easy when something new comes out to remain focused on how you could use that in a perfect world, or how that new thing will evolve into something even more perfect than it already is. But the reality is today that like these systems offer tremendous advantages to, I would say, what in some cases are expected capabilities for a human that's already tasked with getting many of the jobs done that these systems can support. So I think it's important to kind of prioritize the decisions that we think are the lowest risk, that we can have agentic solutions operate on our behalf. So like I think back to the days of web application firewalls and how alert fatigue led to people kind of reducing the sensitivity of them. But like, what if like a lot of that noise could be filtered by an agentic system without necessarily having to turn down sensitivity, but at the same time, where we pass the least risky activities to be managed or kind of rationally thought about by an agentic system. So I think it's like kind of we have to apply these technologies very pragmatically and not get sucked into a world where we only think about their application when they're perfect. Right. So we kind of have to apply them in a very human way, as opposed to thinking of them as kind of solutions that will eventually be perfect and then we can apply.
Absolutely. Captain Clark, is this resonating with your approach, kind of this start small, start less risky, and then work your way up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's 100% right. And not only will humans struggle to keep up, if struggle is the right word, with agentic AI systems, but likely something we should prepare for is over reliance on these systems, which would lead to human, even if we had a human observing, the over reliance on the system could cause them to ignore a lot of things. So having that external or secondary agentic system that's responsible for oversight of a different agentic system, I think that's likely the right way to go. And it deals with a whole number of challenges. But yeah, absolutely. I think start small, work big. I think it's important to have a vision. A lot of the stuff we're talking about is not is not really implemented today, to my knowledge. It's mostly experimentation we're kind of looking visionary out 5, 10 years from now. But being prepared for that is important, and having that vision is critical if we're going to be ready for keeping pace. And so starting to put those things into the low risk, I would say, categories where we can implement it now. Like things like language translation. There could be some higher risk things there, but language translation or writing documents, reviewing documents, those kinds of things are, obviously low risk, the business type applications, but then experimenting with some of the higher risk and preparing for that likely future.
So we are just about out of time here, but as a last question, I'd love to sort of look towards that vision you were just mentioning, and look towards the future. And could each of you tell me a little bit about things coming down the pike that you are excited about, but also, planning to implement while kind of minimizing that risk side of things? Captain Clark, do you want to start?
Yeah, so we have a number of initiatives that we are looking at in generative AI and agentic AI. And so we're, looking to do some pilots. We are also, as part of our AI implementation plan that is expected to be published here in the near future. One of the pieces of that is standing up a generative AI team or task force to look at the use cases across the service, identify what the best way to support those use cases would be, and then look at how we can move in a direction that is going to start accelerating those uses and really allowing Marines across the Marine Corps to experiment and understand where they can best apply some of this technology. And then also we will be looking at infrastructure, which is critical. A lot of the stuff we're talking about is the biggest challenge is not necessarily being able to do it. It's having the infrastructure to support it. We can often do these in silos in a few small cases where we're supporting a few hundred users, but when we start to expand across very different domains and thousands of users, it becomes very challenging. And having that continuous quality data to support it is another major consideration. So those are all things that we have coming down the line in over the next year, among several other things. But I think having that vision is critical so that we can see where we're going, plan for it, and start putting those steps in place to get there and also be ready and flexible for changes as they come out.
Sounds like a lot of exciting opportunity there for the future of your team. And Frank, what's kind of your vision for the future in this space?
I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm trying to establish a framework that allows me to determine how humans customers will benefit from agentic AI or just more generally these learning models. And I think I've kind of settled on a framework where there's this idea of personal agency, where today a individual who's trying to learn something or expedite something, right, has at their fingertips 24/7, access to a system that allows them to improve, exponentially in comprehension or output, always available to them. I was watching a video that was recently released of Steve Jobs talking about his vision for Gen I in 1983, and he was saying the issue, one thing he hoped would happen in the future is that you could have a conversation with Aristotle, right? That you could, and it's crazy that today you have, available in your home the ability to connect with something and, expand upon an idea or ask it to expedite some action that you need to take to achieve an outcome that's part of some goal you have. And it's instantaneous and continuously available with none of the proclivities of kind of challenges that we as human beings present one another when we ask each other to do something. And then beyond like this personalized agency, I've been thinking a lot about how this agency could work and support collaboration, or it might support organizational goals. And so here at Human, I think we're diving headfirst into this idea that Agentic AI can offer our contributors that personal agency, and that personal agency can improve their efficiency, that it can actually it could develop them like better than any time in college might be able to, and it can actually even improve their ability to kind of combine pieces of information that they, maybe couldn't fit in their mental chalkboard all at the same time, right? And so, where we're looking at how it's applicable to our capabilities is we think that, as someone asks us to defend their platform and differentiate between real and right humans, or agents working on behalf of real and right humans that have appropriate intent versus abusive intent, we're looking at how agentic AI capabilities might play a role in that reasoning and that automated decisioning. And then finally, even as an organization, we're looking, I think, at how, it's funny, our name is Human. I have a framed picture of a Times magazine where we were profiled as a company that's, impacting the world. And the front cover was open AI, right? And so like it's kind of like I think this is where we're headed. We're headed to a place where everything we do and everything we experience is somehow assisted, or is somehow involves agentic AI as part of it happening. And AI will be almost a partner to human beings in achieving things. And so I think we're thinking about that here at Human, and thinking about how we can use that to support our customers' needs.
Thank you, Frank. And of course, thank you, Captain Clark, as well. Thank you both for taking time out of your day to share your expertise with us today. Unfortunately, we are out of time. So to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Today's webcast will be available for on-demand viewing, so you can come back and rewatch or share with your colleagues who might have missed it. For GovExec, I'm Shay Connolly. Have a great day.